Welcome to Creating Space. This is episode 5, and this is a really beautiful episode for me. I've got some deep friends in the studio today, and we spoke about everything related to men's health. There was 5 of us behind the mic, and it was just a really nourishing conversation for me. And for anyone listening or tuning in today, I really hope you enjoy this. It's the team, it's the Men Without Masks team. We just hit a lot of avenues, all related to men's health, but really a lot of it is pretty universal. So I hope you enjoy today's conversation. It was really, really powerful. And, I'd like to just introduce the men here just before we start getting into the conversation. So we've got Dave Aucott, and he's from Buxton. And Dave's a really new friend of mine, and he's got a really deep relationship with nature. He's got an incredible sporting background, and especially climbing. And this started at the age of 12, and 40 years on, he still has a passion for it. Dave's climbed all over the world, and he's used it as a coping mechanism to dive into himself, especially when his father passed away when he was only 20 years old. And after several trips to India climbing, he discovered yoga at around 25, and he's been diving into the practice and having a love affair with the magic yoga brings. Dave is a father of 3 and currently renovating a farm in the Peak District. And again, he's got a really beautiful connection to nature, which has took him on a journey of cold water swimming and the exploration of breath. Especially after losing 2 close friends to suicide, it's raised his awareness of male well-being. And Dave is a post-Men Without Masks participant, and recently the new member of the team. We've got Andy Downs. Andy is the operations manager for Men Without Masks and also does a lot of work for Craig White Mentoring. He's also just completed his life coach training and is in the process of developing his own coaching practice. This includes the introduction of a manifestation program, which is grounded in the science behind quantum physics and the law of attraction. Andy is a gay man and has a passion for helping other members of the LGBT community live fulfilled lives of purpose. Andy is also currently going through an adoption process with his husband. That's really powerful. Looking forward to sharing Andy's story here today. We've got Craig White, and Craig is a previous participant on the Creating Space podcast on episode 4. But Craig's back today, and Craig's really the brains, the spirit behind the whole operation of Men Without Masks. He's the intelligence of the retreat. He gave birth to Men Without Masks in 2016, and since then it's become an organisation which helps men from all walks of life feel into their potential. And we've got Andy Kershaw. For me, Andy is the backbone of this establishment, Men Without Masks. Born in London, father left when he was 2 and became a professional rugby player for a decade, but he suffered with a lot of addictions. He lived a really rocky road, bankruptcy, divorce, and it hasn't really been so easy for Andy, but a lot of these, experiences in his life have been his blessings, and he's really used these blessings to build his character, and he's, the man he is today is through his life experience. He has a real passion to help men pull themselves out of the darkness, inspiring change and self-discovery. He lives on the south coast near Brighton with his family, and we've become really, really great friends over the last couple of years, and I've really loved watching Andy step into his manhood, and he's now on a journey with his own establishment, The Authentic Man. So again, really looking forward to sharing Andy's story today. And obviously there's myself, Martin Bone. I suppose I consider myself the heartbeat of Men Without Masks. There's a spirit within me which is really playful and gentle, but there's also a grit and a determination that I bring to the table, and a realness. And I sit here today with these men, and I feel really blessed, and I feel incredibly grateful to be a part of this establishment. And moving forward, we're doing some great things, and already we've been doing some amazing work over the last few years. So I hope you enjoy this conversation today. It's a really riveting conversation. It lasts a couple of hours, so put the kettle on, get a cup of tea, or I'm hoping you just enjoy this conversation today.
I love doing yoga. I love doing a couple of classes a week.
Allow us to journey into these altered states.
It really whacked me psyche though, big time.
If you just sit reading books, it's the shadow because you're not going to be in your body.
Welcome to Creating Space. Bringing people together. Real conversations with real people. Telling stories and sharing our gifts right here in the heart of Liverpool. Inspiring new ideas, education and co-creation.
Choose a challenge that lights you up and is going to make a difference in the world.
Creating Space.
Sponsored by the Scouse Guru app.
Hello and welcome to Creating Space. Welcome back. My name's Martin Bone and this is episode 5. And today I've got a real treat for everybody who's going to be tuning in to this conversation today. I've got a gang of fellas now sitting in Planet Yoga, real great friends of mine, and it's just a wonderful opportunity to come together. And it's the Men Without Masks team here. We're sitting in Planet Yoga. We're upstairs, and we've been thrashing a few things out today, just planning the year ahead. And these guys are great friends of mine, and we're doing some great work together. And yeah, so guys, welcome to Planet Yoga. Welcome to Creating Space. How are you getting on?
Good, thanks, Martin.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to be in Liverpool.
Nice to be in Planet again. Awesome, amazing place.
So let's start diving in there. We've been here today, and we tend to meet every quarter, and it's all about Men Without Masks. We're coming together, we're thrashing some things out, we're keeping things clean, and we're brainstorming. And we met last night. We've been looking at some stuff, and we've really come to a great conclusion of where the whole operation is at the moment, and mapping out where we are in the future. And it feels really good to come together, to sit here and to move through this stuff. And so this year we've got 4 retreats. First one in April, and these are the 5-day retreats we do here in the Peak District, actually, in the UK. We've also got a 10-day retreat in Peru, in the Machu Picchu area in May. And then we're going to do a massive 1-day event here in Liverpool in August. And so, it's just good to brainstorm, get all this out there. And it's really for the benefit of other men. And this is what it's all about. So today we're going to be diving into what is Men Without Masks, and what is this container of how we can serve men, moving forward in their lives. And really, I'm going to start with you, Craig, because I want to talk about the journey of man. I want to talk about why Men Without Masks. Over to you.
Hi Martin, hi everyone. I think we all have one thing common in this room, in relation to the why of Men Without Man. And the thing that we've got in common is, we've all been through a period in our life where we struggled to find meaning in it, and that struggle to find meaning into why we get out of bed in the morning, it leads to that period of confusion and frustration that many people, especially men, tend to go through in today's world. So from my personal perspective, Men Without Masks, it came as a result of having some kind of, I thought it was a crisis. I look back and it was a blessing, but at the time it was a crisis where I'm working in professional rugby. I have a great job. Everything looks perfect on the outside. I'm busy. I'm doing. I'm in work in the morning at 5:30. I'm home at night at 8:30. But it's okay because I want to be the best, and I'm working for the Welsh rugby team, and everything seems to be fine. And then I headed off on a yoga retreat to Thailand for a month. I didn't want to go. I was with my ex-wife and I wasn't really into yoga, but I went. And within that month, for the first time I can remember in my life, and I was about 32, I had time to reflect. I was told to be quiet. I was told to be silent. I had to try and meditate, and I had to try and do yoga and keep still, and in that space, I was so used to doing, stuff came up. Sometimes that stuff was painful. I didn't want to look at it, and at other times, within that space of silence and contemplation and feeling into myself, I realized how incredible I could be, and the potential of myself and the potential of life. And listening to some of the yoga lectures in the evening time and being around that energy also made me realize how vast this life is. I'd spent so many years thinking about myself, me, and wanting to be the best for me. All of a sudden I realized that there's more to life than just me, and life is vast. It's expansive. And then, to cut a long story short, I kind of went back into my job with the Welsh rugby team after this month immersion into yoga and meditation and mindfulness, and all of a sudden life had no meaning. So in a very short space of time, because it was an intense experience, I came back and I didn't have the same values. What used to be important to me wasn't important to me anymore, and it was a confusing space. I was earning good money. I had was supposed to be a good job, but I couldn't relate anymore to the people around me, and I didn't know why, which was the confusing part. I didn't know why, and I was going home in the evening time, and I was crying, and I was angry, and I was really fucking confused, and the only person that knew about it was my wife, and I couldn't tell anybody, of course, because I was a man, typical man that didn't speak up. And it was a time of turmoil where I thought, why do I want to leave this job? But I know I have to leave it, and eventually I did leave that job. And it took me on a journey of self-discovery, and I was just fascinated to find out more about myself, find out more about yoga, find out more about why I was an angry fucker, find out more about why I couldn't cry, find out more about why I was triggered by certain people and why I gravitated to other people, find out why I still had a little bit of anger towards my brother and my father and my mother. And so it took me on this kind of incredible journey of awakening, really. And I explored many different modalities of, if you like, healing or self-discovery, self-exploration. And what also happened is I'd been in rugby so long, I'd played rugby and I'd coached in rugby at the highest level for about 15 years. But for some reason, I couldn't work in it anymore. And for a few years, I was pushed it away, and I said, you know what, I'll never work in rugby again. So I had to create something else at the time. Now I work in rugby again, and I have a different reason for doing that, and I love it. But going back 5 or 6 years, I was searching for something else. And I just connected the dots of my life and my skills and my experiences. And I'd always worked with men. I was good with groups. I was good at helping groups establish a level of safety. And within that kind of container, if you like, of a circle of men, I added everything else. And within the retreat, there's men's circles, there's journaling, there's yoga, there's meditation, there's dynamic movement, there's a bit of exercise, there's connection in nature. And it was just really a collection of all my strengths, gifts, abilities, and experiences that I put together, and it fitted for me. It was a way to recreate what I'd experienced to a level in rugby, although Men Without Masks goes much, much deeper than anything that I'd experienced in rugby. So it came out of pain, really. It came out of a period of real discomfort and confusion and anger and misunderstanding. So that's kind of... So I guess the why of Men Without Masks is to help other men to make sense of life and help them to feel safe enough to share about their life and their experiences so that they can forgive the past. They can become more present in the moment. They can become more self-accepting of themselves. They can love themselves. And more importantly, the real common theme within men that come through our program is an uncertainty around what the purpose is. So one big area that we help men with is to establish a deeper sense of purpose, which is far beyond their own individual personality, and a purpose that can really help the world.
Lovely. You know, I remember when you first walked into the studio in 2016, and you were tapping into this work for a few years previous, and we started to just gather a few men here in Liverpool, and we were sitting in some circles, and then not long after, in 2017, you set up the first retreat, and it was in Devon. And I remember it really clearly. We were sitting here with Andy Kershaw, and he was a participant on the first retreat. I was there facilitating, teaching the yoga and the meditation. And then since then, we've moved to a lovely place in the Peak District, Whaley Hall. And I think, we've run over a dozen retreats now. And it's almost become this monster, hasn't it? This real incredible organization, which is just starting to grow and expand in every direction. And obviously we've got Dave here, who's just done one of the recent retreats, and Andy himself, who is the sort of the operations in the background and doing a lot of work on social media and does a lot of work for Craig White. So we've all actually had the experience, and I know Andy Kershaw, he sat again. He went back, he did it again, and now he's on the team. And so it's now we sit here together as a container of men, and we've built this trust and this brotherhood, and it just feels right and honest. And so that is it's a nice way to open up into today's conversation. And let's just maybe lean for a moment into the journey of man, Craig, because, we're talking about why here, and you just explained why. But, what is really the journey of man?
Yeah, so, there's so many ways to look at this, and we're not historians here. We don't claim to be historians and experts in human evolution, but the way we simplify it, and what we frame, if you like, or what we talk about in the retreat, is this kind of journey from, if you like, tribal times, times when it was relatively clear as a young man or a young girl, even growing up, what life was about. It was about community. It was about watching mum and dad in various roles. Dad goes hunting, mum stays at home, and there's elders around. And as kids in those tribal times, we can see how other men are behaving, and it's quite clear what it means to be a man. And of course, evolution happens, and we move from those tribal times into, for example, agricultural communities where there's a bit of a split in the tribe, and then we move into kind of growing our own food and being in slightly smaller communities. And then, of course, fast forwarding, and the Industrial Revolution kicks off, and there's this striving for more money and more abundance, and how that can be used to benefit families. And so then we kind of started to gravitate more into families, and what was born as a nuclear family. And then over time, and especially as the technological revolution slowly but surely kicked in, there's this gravitation towards a little bit more separation, and so many more perceived opportunities for individuals to pursue, whereas the family unit or the community unit or the tribal unit was at the top of our value system, and it was incredibly important. There's so many opportunities in today's world that it's not always at the top of our value chain anymore, this importance of family. And as a young man and a young woman growing up, especially kind of from those industrial evolution times, all of a sudden the picture of father or the picture of mother involves going out and earning money and spending long hours in factories and workspaces, and especially where fathers are concerned and how that relates to men. Often it's quite clear that the father that was a key integral unit of that tribe, in that community, in that agricultural system, in that village, for example, all of a sudden goes missing. He's around in the evening times, but he goes missing. He's out in the morning, he's away till late in the evening time. And I know in my own life, my father worked for 48 years on the railway, and he was out at 6 a.m, and I have a vivid picture of seeing my father when I was coming home from school, and he was walking up the hill from work, and the model he portrayed to me was a tired man, a really, 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 really tired man that emotionally didn't have anything left after a day's work. And he went home from work, he'd lie on the couch, he'd watch TV, and okay, he was there in my life, but he wasn't really, emotionally, he wasn't there. And he wasn't taught how to love, he wasn't taught how to hug. And so that shift, especially where fathers are concerned, from spending time with the family, spending time with the kids, and then going out and really striving and trying to earn more money for the sake of his family, but not realizing that he's not there in terms of the emotional bond with the kids. That's really affected society. And then the technological revolution has kicked in, and what's happened is energetically we've really moved from being in the body, from doing manual tasks, to really living in the head and living on our phones and living on our laptops and living with 5G and living with TV and living with screens. And it's really been beneficial in terms of this kind of logic and reasoning way to look at life. The world is incredible in terms of how we interact, and all the different systems and processes available, and all the different technologies and different way that humans interact. But at the deepest level, because we're in our heads, because we're stuck in the energy of thought and thinking, we've lost connection with our bodies. We've lost connection with our bodies, and we've really lost connection with each other. There's never been a time in history where we haven't been more connected at the level of technology, but there's never been a time in history where we're more disconnected at the level of the body and real energetic connection with another human being. So that brings up a whole lot of confusion, because at the deepest level, we're supposed to connect.
Yeah. We're all longing to belong, aren't we? And we're all looking for that level of connection and authentic relationship. And, I suppose, we talk about how it's this journey of man, and nowadays there's a level where we've just been indoctrinated and also domesticated.
And also, Martin, we've been chemically changed in a way that now, with the use of mobile phones and constant screens and constant electronic beeping, we now run on a system of stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, rather than running on dopamine and endorphins. When men went to work and did a manual task every day, or went out hunting and were physical and were moving all day long, they lived on their happy hormones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now men live on a cocktail of stress hormones.
Yeah, that's cortisol. It's like lingers in the body all day, every day, doesn't it? And, we're, as Craig was saying, we're very much in the intellect nowadays, psychologically overthinking, and it's causing us to really, we've got no mental fitness, from my perspective, and through this psychological overthinking level of worrying and afraid, that it's just it's taken us ever more away from that natural feeling, you know, of embodying the self and embodying a feeling of naturalness. And you know, I know in the retreat we do a lot of embodiment work. We get back into the body, don't we, and sort of try to get out of the head. You know, using mindful techniques, using, you know, yoga, connecting to nature. I know you've got a massive connection to nature, which you want to be tapping into a little bit shortly. But let's just tap into some statistics for a moment, because, you know, when we're talking about guys who maybe have had a lack of fathering energy, you know, in the household, and being inevitably raised by women, haven't they?
It's not just fathers, you know, men should have a group of fathers, they should have a group of mentors, you know. They should have a group of elders that aren't necessarily related to them. That can give them a much more diverse experience of life.
Absolutely. You know, from a sense, what I'm really feeling into is there's a lack of initiation, isn't there, for young boys nowadays, you know what I mean? And I think men naturally seek initiation. It's embedded, it's encoded in our experience, and this sort of sense of danger, you know, we could call it the hero's journey. And but this sort of lack of direction and fathering energy, you know, men are, you know, moving into areas of the life which are not really so generative or useful and authentic. And obviously, you know, we're talking maybe leaning towards a lot of, you know, men who are committing suicide, you know, that sort of lack of purpose, lack of initiation, you know, the midlife crisis, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, we mentioned in the last podcast that I did with Craig some statistics around, you know, the suicide rate. You know, it's almost like 80% of the suicide rate, it's male related. And I think for every man who commits suicide, it's around 40 men who attempt to commit suicide. So we have to look at, like, what's really going on here. You know, and I know when we're talking about the homeless, you know, it's over 75% are male related. 5 in every 6 arrests are male related. You know, something's really going on here. And we were having a conversation before, and Andy, you know, was talking about, you know, these young offenders, and the statistics that a lot of it is a lack of father in the household. Is that correct, Andy?
Absolutely. You know, I recently actually went to an absent fathers workshop in Brighton, which was run by a psychotherapist, and the statistics that you're mentioning there, Martin, are true. But what was alarming to me, or fascinating as well, was the amount of those statistics that these men and boys had come from families with absent fathers. And you know, just going into what you're saying there, and Craig, what you've been saying is that, you know, without that masculine, positive male role model, you know, young boys, you know, they're going to look to other places for those role models. And if they're looking in the wrong places, then, you know, they're going to pick up the wrong, you know, what's wrong, but the wrong message, and, you know, fall into bad habits and just basically follow a herd that's the wrong herd.
Yeah. It's like society, really. It's like, you know, especially, you know, we have to look at what are these young men diving into, and, you know, what's sort of popping up in my mind here. It's these video games. You know, there's a lot of influence now, you know, in the digital age of playing these video games, and it's all about violence, isn't it? You know, and you know, and obviously some of these shows, obviously, you know, you got the likes of Sopranos, Peaky Blinders. It's, you know, there's a lot of, like, male influences there, but it's really maybe just, you know, designing a psyche for young men to follow suit in a way which is cool, you know, to be violent and to murder, and, you know, and to fight, and you know, to make money, and I'm not disregarding any of that kind of stuff, you know, because it gives us also a sense of, like, being here as a man. But what I feel as if, you know, you're saying here is just this complete lack of fathering energy. You know, real mature men in the world just holding the space, shining the light. There's a real lack of that, isn't there?
It's guidance, Martin. It's if a group of adolescent men have no elder, they just grow, they just develop with their own peers, and they just bounce off each other all the time, and there's nobody to take them forward. And so you'll get a group of men. I mean, the gang situation is exactly that, isn't it? You know, there isn't an elder.
Yeah.
It's just there's no real hierarchy apart from violence of a group of men all of very similar age.
Yeah, and it's it gives men a sense of belonging, which is important. But I suppose the leadership qualities are very much stunted, twisted, and warped, which ain't really given young adolescent men an opportunity to initiate into manhood. And this is the work we do here, within Men Without Masks. We hold the space for men. We educate men, using the archetypes, that map. But we also give men an opportunity to be heard. We give men an opportunity to initiate a rite of passage through the retreat that we do here in Whaley Hall. So yeah, it's just good to talk about. We're just thrashing some numbers out here and really getting into the nitty gritty of what's going on nowadays. With young men in society, and these are alarming numbers, and the suicide rate keeps rising, and it's like, okay, how can we? What can we do about this? What's the answer really? And I know, Andy, you didn't really have a father in your life, did you? So how did that play out? I know you moved into being into rugby. Your mum took you to a rugby club at a really early age, and probably understood that you needed some male influences in your life. So let's lean into your story here.
Yeah, so my father left when I was 2, and so I grew up without a father, and my mum was left with just me and her, and my mum, bless her, she knows that I needed those sort of masculine, fatherly sort of energies. So I was quite a hyper kid. I was quite angry. I was getting into fights in the playground and just generally being disruptive in class. And so my mum was like, "Thank God, what do I do?" And she went into a corner shop where we lived in North London, and there was a sign like mini rugby. So she thought, okay, well, rugby, that's good. Let's get him down there. So she took me down to the local rugby club in North London, Barnet Rugby Club, and she sort of like said, "Can I leave him here? I need to go and do the shopping." And they said, "Yeah, don't worry, we'll look after him." And I remember being put on the back of the seat of this car, and they were trying on all these different boots to get me a pair of boots that fitted, and off I went onto the rugby pitch, little sort of plump, little sort of ginger, sort of like angry kid, and my mum went off and she did her shopping, and then when she came back, the coaches, they just like, where did you get him? He is just like a natural. We've christened him the Battleship. So that was it. That just stuck in my mum. She was like, right, rugby, that's it. This is it. This is going to be his father, if you like. And so I played rugby as a kid, and I went into school and played rugby. And when I was in primary school, the teachers like they were noticing I had learning difficulties. I was a bit behind other kids. Oh, we think he might be dyslexic. And of course, my mum was like, "Oh no, he's just lazy." So I sort of had to I put that in my bag, that label of being lazy. And then, I went into secondary school playing rugby, and I started playing rugby for the county, and then to London and the southeast. And then I eventually, as a state school kid, ended up playing rugby for England schools, which was difficult in itself, considering it's a very public school system. So for me, I was able to hide from my dyslexia and not face that shadow that, do you know what, I have got, I learned differently. So my rugby then became a place where I could hide effectively. So I ended up then becoming a professional rugby player, and it wasn't really who I was or what I wanted to do. I was quite a creative, but again, it just gave me somewhere to hide. So a lot of that energy that, and those other males that I was around, really wasn't what you call a mature sort of, a man that's sort of evolved. And, I picked up some pretty bad habits, and my addictions with alcohol and other things, really started to kick off there, because I just had such a mask on. I wasn't showing who I really was. And yeah, it's only when I came out of that sort of 10-year period of playing rugby and really just having a bit of a breakdown, a crisis, not knowing who I was, and my addictions were rife, and I was drinking a lot. I was just, self-medicating the sort of pain that I was in. And really what I was looking for was just, initiated wise elders. And I didn't have that. One day I walked into the therapy room and got a psychotherapist, and it was the best decision of my life. It totally changed my life, because he was an elder man, and we went on a journey, and we're still on that journey. And he was really encouraging me you need to get out there and be amongst some men that are initiated, men that are wiser. And he was really sort of pointed towards the direction of the Mankind Project, which is an organization that does amazing work of like initiation. And I was like resisting it. I was like, I don't really want to do that, because it was feeling uncomfortable to do that, and I was like, I don't want to do it, and I was hiding again from it. And then one day I was on a long lunch. I was on probably starting to open my third bottle of wine somewhere in London, and Facebook popped up, and there's old Craig, and it's he's putting on this retreat in Devon. And I just thought, wow, look, looks like Mankind Project type stuff. And I thought, I like that, because it's Craig. I met Craig at Wasp playing rugby, and Craig got the best out of me, and he made me feel safe. And I just straight away, it took away that fear of, it's just a bit of safety.
Yeah.
So I just pressed that button. I sat there and I thought, another sip of wine, and I thought, I'll press that I'm interested. So I hit the interested button, and within 30 seconds, Craig sent me a direct message. He DM'd me and said, like, all right, Kersh, are you coming? Are you really coming? I said, yeah, I'm going to come. And he was like, I'm made up. So I just thought, fuck it. Step over that fear and do something like this. So I went down to Devon, and it was an amazing experience. It was just fantastic and I met you, Martin, and it was just, and I met Mark as well, Mark Phillips, which, he's changed my life as well, that man. And it was a relief that there was someone else out there, and to be amongst other men that are all struggling with the same, looking for that positive masculine male role model that they haven't had. And it doesn't matter who anyone is, what anyone's done with their life, but we're all just men. We're all equal. There's no judgment. And yeah, it was beautiful. And I'm so glad that I took that step and stepped over that fear of the unknown. Yeah. I think we all have it inside us.
And, being a professional rugby player, I suppose that's all you knew for such a long time, that paradigm. And, and I suppose it can be the same for a lot of professional, not just rugby players, but all sportsmen, when they're coming out of the sport, when when they've had enough, or, whether they're pushed out or whether it's just an organic happening, that it's like, who am I? What's my identity here, and where am I going in life? And I know you were a very successful businessman, stepping away from that sporting arena, and yeah, some massive successes in London and in the property on the property game. But I suppose diving into member out masks and being vulnerable, taking off them masks and really connecting the dots of your past. And I know, coupled with the therapy that you're doing, and I know you're married to a therapist as well, aren't you? So, you've been really looking in the mirror, I suppose, for quite some time. And how's it unfolded then? We sort of fast forward to today. What, where you're up to, what type of person you feel like you've come to, and
what type of person? It's constantly evolving. I'm always growing. I'm always looking for opportunities to grow. There's things that I look at, and if I don't feel that sense of discomfort about doing it, then it's not right for me. You need to feel that discomfort. Like I sat with a very wise elder, called Mark, who was, came to the house the other day, and he's talking about the 10-day silent meditation retreat, and just him talking about it made me really feel a bit of discomfort. I'm thinking, God, how can I sit in silence for 10 days? Yeah, it really makes me feel uncomfortable. So that I've learned that when I feel that discomfort in my belly, in my gut, that I need to go there. Yeah, because there's something that I'm going to get from it. Yeah, there's a trigger. If I don't feel discomfort from it, then it's not the right thing, and that will bring me back to hiding a little bit, So it's all like just pushing yourself and constantly evolving. And it's, there's another organization called the Hoffman, for example, and I'm going to do the Hoffman process in June. And it's just like, I feel uncomfortable. What's going to come up for me in that? And, I just feel that, ever since I took 100% responsibility for myself and my actions and the way I was behaving in the world by going into that therapy room and then, going on different journeys, going to Men Without Masks and then just owning it.
Yeah. Why did you go back? Because you did it for a second time, didn't you? And now you're on the team, so you'd obviously get to explore every single time. And there's, as you said, the growth never stops, does it? And so, you went back for the second time. What did you feel like you maybe anchored the second time around that you maybe didn't feel the first time around?
I think the first time I did it, it was the first retreat, Men Without Masks retreat, and I got so much from it. And then I just went back into my normal life. I started to realize that I had a lot of toxic relationships around me that had been around me for a long time that weren't serving me. And they're actually pulling me back. And I realized, I need to start unraveling this.
Yeah, untangling it.
I need to start untangling this because but it's not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
And what a lot of us, and I did it, is I was looking for that magic pill. Take this and everything's going to be fine. There is no quick fix, and everything takes time. You can't just turn around and say, do you know what? I'm not going to work in that field anymore. I'm going to do something else. Well, we've all got bills to pay.
Yeah.
We all live in the real world. So this took time. So the reason why I went back the second time is I was unraveling.
Yeah.
And it was important to go back and ground myself and just see how far I've come. And like a yardstick. And I think doing it the second time for me really showed me how far I've come. And I think that's important, as anyone, to have a yardstick to see growth.
Yeah, and I for one loved witnessing the change. We seen you the first time around and vice versa, and then seen you the second time around, and now I get to see you every time I'm retreating. We've built up this lovely relationship, and I love you dearly, actually. And there's to watch the change. You look different, you know what I mean. There's such a softness there and a vulnerability. And I know you've now started your own organisation called The Authentic Man. So yeah, what's all that about?
The Authentic Man, it's that only just came about by the feedback I was getting in the room from the participants on the retreat, about being authentic. And so I just thought, okay, I'll take that name. And what does it mean? And I kind of got my domain name and had a logo designed, and I parked it. And I didn't really understand what it was going to be or what it meant. And then through time and just sitting at Whaley Hall, I just started to realize that it was feeding into me and my story of not having a father. And it relates to so many other men there. Craig, you said, you had a father there, but he wasn't really present. And that's also an absent father, I guess, in some state. And I think a lot of men, if they had their father in their life, they still have some form of an absent father.
Yeah.
So what's really come up for me is that we're all searching. We're all searching for elders. We're all searching for wisdom. We're all searching for answers of things that we don't know, that we feel inside us that we should know or we want to know. And the Authentic Man really is just about an organisation that is going to be for the mental well-being and growth of men. And it's going to be like an information post where you can come in like a notice board and think, God, look at this. You've got Men Without Masks. This is what it's about. And this is what you're going to get from it. And this is how you're going to grow. You've got the Mankind Project. You've got the Hoffman. You've got whatever it is. There's just all these different avenues and places that you can go and little experiences you can have, which I guess would have been the father I wish I had.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's for everybody, isn't it? Like Men Without Masks, there's just normal guys, isn't there? From all walks of life, from all different ages, and they're just there coming together, removing masks, holding the space for one another. Power's in the circle, isn't it, Craig? We come together, we sit together, we eat together, and there's such power in that dynamic, isn't there?
I mean, it's not easy to get bums on seats, to be honest, because we don't target one specific area of manhood. We target everybody. It's unique in the sense that in the retreat, remember the last retreat, you could have a yoga teacher, you could have a bricklayer, you could have a lawyer, you could have a policeman, which we did, you could have an art dealer, and it's totally unique, and we want it that way. We could easily just go for a niche and fill the retreats easily, but we don't do that. We keep it open to any man, and that is the unique difference, to be honest. Those men would not meet on the outside.
Yeah.
And as men, I'll own this, in my life as a man, I was raised to compete with other men. I saw men through the lens of my mum, because I spent most of the time with my mum, and often that was, be careful of that guy and be careful of that guy. So it's common among men, we compete with each other. And when we sit in the circle on day one of retreat, the initial reaction is, what the fuck am I doing here? Who is that guy and who is that guy? But at the end, it's 100% positive. We've never had one negative piece of feedback. And it's unique. It's bringing men of all walks of life together to celebrate our sameness and to celebrate our unique differences.
Yeah, lovely. I think, what you're saying there as well, you were raised by your mother, so some of your ideas and your perceptions were actually your mother's, and I can really own that from my own journey. I've been really fortunate because, I did see my dad is still around, and he was a great elder for me, and he demonstrates amazing qualities of persistence and hard work, and a good, sound, solid man who was there. He worked long hours, but inevitably I was raised by my mother. But luckily enough for me, my mother was a strong influence in my life. A confident woman. And so it was. I played tennis for a long time, and I had male influences, in the tennis world. So I suppose I'm one of the luckiest ones. You know what I mean? And the way my life's unfolded, I've been really blessed, and I've had some healthy initiations, and I feel like and it takes time to become a man, doesn't it? It takes experience, and there's many paths of initiation. One, becoming a father and having a child, and I for one remember my own initiation when I was around probably 17, 18. I went to Texas, and I lived in Texas for 4.5 months, and I was taken away from the family dynamic, and spent a lot of time with elders and other men, and it was a really wonderful time for me. But just talking about being raised by our mothers for a moment, obviously, Andy, you were raised by your mother because your father wasn't around, but how was that dynamic for you, and how did that play out? Because I know you had to go through a process, especially within the dynamic of therapy, to almost divorce your mother.
Yeah, I did. I remember when my first therapy session, the conversation was basically around, you've got 2 divorces. You've got your wife and your mother, and at the time I was thinking, but I can see the wife, but the mum, like it didn't feel right. No, you're mad. But through time and process, it became apparent. And, my mum, she's done an incredible job when you look at the tools that she had and where she's come from, in a very, very sort of like, poor part of Northern Ireland. She's done incredible. And I have so much love and gratitude for that woman, for what she's done for me. And, but, the dynamic played out, it was, I was always pleasing my mum. I was, and that led to the same relationship with women. I was always pleasing, and I ended up in a marriage that wasn't right. I was pleasing my mum there, and I had to unravel all of that because I didn't have that male role model, that male sort of father figure that was like giving me the other side. It's like related a lot to what we're saying about, men aren't at work and they're absent because they're in society. They're the breadwinners. They go out to win, to work, and to earn money to feed the family. So the dynamic of my relationship with my mum has played out in different relationships that I've had with women, etc. But I've had to work on it. I've had to go there. It's shadow. I've had to go in there and do that uncomfortable work.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it, to do the work?
It's not easy, but I've come full circle, and I have nothing but love and compassion for my mother.
Yeah.
And, I did have to go through a period where I had to cut contact with my mum for 6 months because we were talking, 3 times a day. There was just the text messages. It was too intense. And I didn't have any space for me and who I am and what my voice is and what I really think. And it's, it's very easy then to sort of then just pass on the sort of values of parents, and this goes for all parents. The values get passed on to the child, and the child thinks they live their life as per the parents' values.
Yeah, lovely. I mean, through that journey of self-discovery and creating space from your mother and doing the work, obviously there's a feeling now of sovereignty and authenticity, and really having a stronger sense of awareness to understand your behaviour of the past, but also to capture maybe when you are reacting and the shadows playing out, and to sincerely look at them behaviours, but now take responsibility, own your stuff, and really be the master of your moments. And it's like you're designing a new future, aren't you? Becoming the man that feels authentic to you and original. And I know you're now a father. I know you've got a young daughter, and you've got a young son and another one on the way. So, how's that feel to you?
Well, being a father is just such an amazing gift, and especially, not having a father. It also has brought me a bit of pain because I sort of sit there and I go like, how can you leave these children? I couldn't think of anything like leave. How can you do that? And I went on a journey, and through the help of my therapist Paul, he was very much like, he kept saying, but not ramming it down my throat, but every now and then he would subtly say, you need to find your father. You need to meet your father. There's a shadow. There is a shadow.
Yeah.
And I was resisting it. I don't need to meet my father, because the reason why I didn't want to meet my father is because the picture my mum had painted in my head of him, I didn't want to meet him because he's this horrible, violent man. And but until you actually do go and find out for yourself, you're never actually going to know the truth, because you're never going to feel into that person of who they really are and actually make your own mind up. So that's another example where I was living my life to the values of what my mum was saying.
Yeah.
So, recently I went and met my dad, and I met him on a street in Holborn, and it was a very surreal experience to stand there and look at your maker.
Yeah.
I came from you. You are my father. It's a bit like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. It's like, I am your father type thing. And but again, if I didn't have my therapist and have that elder that made me see the value and the necessity to meet my father, I wouldn't have done it. I would have just carried on listening to my mum.
Yeah.
I think you said that, Craig. You said, Martin, sorry. It's difficult to do the work. I think where Men Without Masks plays a part is sometimes it's difficult to realise what the work is that needs to be done, and what is actually wrong with you, or why you feel like you feel. And Men Without Masks takes a group of men and it highlights that, and it gives you tools. And like going to a therapist, you go there and you go, what the fuck's wrong with me? This is how my relationships are with my children and my parents and my partner, But it takes that step. It takes somebody else to go, well, this is because absent father, absent mother.
A lot of the time it takes a crisis, doesn't it, for you to want to do something about your life, you know what I mean? It's not such as a free will where guys just maybe, nowadays, we're talking about, people want to move into self-development nowadays. It's quite an in thing, isn't it, self-care? And so there is that container, but, it takes
Things are born from darkness.
Absolutely. The darkest hour comes before the dawn. And the retreat that we offer in Whaley Hall is a container, is a safe place for men to come together and to really discover things about themselves. And we use that map, don't we? I know you've just recently finished, your own Men Without Masks retreat. How was it for you, Dave?
I had 2 friends who committed suicide, and I had my own crisis going on as well, pretty much all at the same time. And I was looking to help, really. I was looking to help, and I was looking for a structured way I could help. And I joined the Men Without Masks retreat in November. One reason was just to see how it was done, and see how you did it, and find some kind of structure and a place where I could help myself. But what I walked away with was a map of how to deal with my own emotions, how to deal with my own darkness, how to actually look at my own darkness and not be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Which I'd never really looked at before,
Yeah.
And that sent me on a journey. I mean, it was 3 months ago, and I've not stopped reading. I've not stopped communicating with men. My brain has turned into it thinks in a different way almost now.
Had you heard of the map of the archetypes before Men Without Masks?
No.
And that's the main frame, isn't it? King, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. And for anyone listening here or tuning into this conversation, it's a 5-day journey. On the first day, we're all coming together, we're building a container, we're getting over formalities, we're sharing our story a little bit, and then for the next 4 days, we pretty much then we dive into the energy. There's a lot of intimacy within that energy dynamic for the full day, and obviously the first day we look at the energy of the lover. The day after we look at the energy of the warrior, and we move into the energy of the magician, and we finish the retreat off, with the energy of the king. And so we embody the energy, don't we, for a full day. And obviously we have meditation, yoga, and conversations, education, learning, direct experience around that particular archetype, which gives us then the opportunity to map out your behavior, which is coherent with that particular energy.
Men like structure, and that particular structure of the archetypes and the map that gives works so well. It gives men, it makes you feel safe. If you've got structure, it helps to build that.
And it's a very simple, digestible map, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not like, well, I'm not understanding this. It's foolproof, really, isn't it?
It's something that everybody can relate to.
Yeah.
From every walk of life and every age, everybody can relate to a king.
Yeah.
Everybody, if you say king, everybody has that mental picture.
Yeah. We're actually, every man's got the capacity to be a king, haven't they? When we're sort of diving into to the energies here, and let's bring Craig back online, because this is the real work of understanding, really, and then having the direct experience and being able to apply it, Craig. So, if you want to elaborate on the archetypes.
Yeah, I think the key to how we use it in the retreat is its simplicity. In my own life, I've had access to lots of maps. There's lots of maps available to us in the world of psychology, in the world of personality traits. Astrology is a map, for example. In yoga, they have the chakra system, which is a map. There's so many maps that people explore, and the maps that I'd used previously, like, for example, the chakra system in yoga, sounds incredible, and it is an incredible map, but I couldn't really feel the chakras. People say, can you feel the vibrations in your chakras? Not really. I could pretend, but and then so I mean, the archetypal map is just simple. I first came across it in Thailand, actually, in a yoga school, in a men's group. And then when I trained with the Mankind Project, which is, as Andy says, an incredible organisation, I was also inspired again to go into this map because it's used within one of their trainings. And then I read The King, Warrior, Lover, Magician, and I read a few other books, and I read a book called Backbone, and I did my own personal research and realised that, these archetypal figures, these archetypal energies, they're deep within our psyche, they're deep ingrained within our psyche, and they have been for thousands and thousands of years. There's reference to them in ancient texts, there's reference to them in different traditions, and we find the lover, warrior, magician, king in movies and fairy tales and stories, and it's these fairy tales and stories that help us to really feel into our own archetypes. So it's just a simple map, and the map we use is the one that Robert Moore writes about in his book King, Warrior, Lover, Magician. But what we've done is we use that philosophy and that science, if you like, because it was scientifically studied by Robert, who was a psychologist, who's dead now, unfortunately. But what we do is within those 4 quarters, we put all our own processes and exercises and methodology into it. For example, in the lover quarter, the lover's about connection through feelings. It's about being open. It's about removing boundaries. It's about sensuality. It's about saying yes to the world through our senses. It's about having a healthy relationship with our own sexuality. It's about having a healthy relationship with sadness as well, and seeing sadness as a beautiful signpost of letting go of something and moving into a new beginning. So, we weave some practices within that. And the key word to say is we on day 2, we move through the lover energy, and everything is geared towards feeling the lover inside, not intellectualizing it and talking on an intellectual basis, but feeling this lover inside. Wow, I can feel it. Or fuck, why can't I feel it? Why have I suppressed it? And the warrior's about getting shit done and action and energy and setting boundaries and actually saying no, learning to say no and getting shit done and following the king's mission and having a healthy relationship with what some people call anger, and we call it warrior energy, because unfortunately, especially in men, it's been suppressed. So we become friends with it again. We realize its potent potential. And again, all our practices on Warrior Day are aimed at feeling that warrior within and checking whether we've suppressed it or whether it's over-inflated, and coming to a state of balance in that energy, which we call maturity. And then in the Magician Day, the magician is about our curiosity, our curious center. We all have this curiosity, but unfortunately, if it's been squashed down growing up, we put it into the shadow. We stop being curious, and we just accept life without constantly searching and looking for meaning and new ways of being. So the magician's about this searching and gaining new knowledge and transformation and evolution, and having a healthy relationship with fear, and realizing in our life that every time we step through fear, we look over our shoulder and realize that it was an illusion, and we grow through that process. And also with on the Magician Day, we feel and we practice really bringing our energy inside, away from the world, away from books and knowledge and logical reasoning and conversation, and welcoming silence and becoming if you like, a magician or our own scientist, and checking into what's moving through us and sharing that. And on the King Day, it's very much about creating order in our life. This is a big stumbling block for many men. They find it hard to step into the king, to create order, to have a purpose, to know what's important, to know what's not important, to know what to really focus on, to set clear goals that are meaningful and not phantasmagoric. So king energy is missing today. So really the retreat is a journey through those archetypes, and learning about the different ones, and which ones are we balanced in, which ones are we overinflated, which ones are we underinflated. And some men walk away with a sense of, do you know what? I didn't think I had these archetypes in me, but I can feel them. Yeah, I am a good lover and a warrior and a magician and a king. And other men leave thinking, fuck, I didn't realize until now that I've really suppressed that warrior. I've been scared of him, and I realize how it could change my life if I brought him online, and how can I do that, and can I do that practice? Maybe I can do martial arts. And another guy might say, well, I'm in touch with my warrior because I was a sportsman, but fucking hell, I'm scared of the lover. I'm scared to bring him out and explore my soft side and my femininity. And maybe he goes and explores that with various practices. And a guy who realizes he's suppressed his magician, maybe he gets into meditation and yoga and this kind of mystical realm. And maybe guys, especially older guys, it's more about king for them. It's more about leaving and really stepping into the king and realizing that if they have a clear mission, then, and they have a strong king, that all the pain of life can be held by that king, and he can go forward into this kingship and leave a legacy and mentor people and be a role model and die content.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And it's just given the listener today a real sense of what this work's all about. And we as a team, we create the conditions, with the certain embodiment sessions that we do and the certain conversations we have, and even the music is a heavy influence through the retreat that we use, and we're really just creating the conditions for us to not just know this work, but really to feel this work. And it's really powerful stuff. And this level of education gives us an opportunity to shine the light and to be aware of where we are maybe lacking, or where we are a little bit out of balance. I, for one, remember reading the book, starting to dive into this work. And I read the book, and I was in Mexico, and I couldn't put it down. And some of it was really liberating, but some of it was really painful, because I was able to really see the patterns of my behaviour, and it was able then to give me an opportunity to map out where it was coming from and why was I behaving in that way. I suppose, living in Liverpool, there's a lot of overactive warrior energy, a lot of bulldozing, a lot of lads are getting shit done. But it can be way overactive, and then maybe talking about the magician energy, a lot of manipulation, so it's it's out of balance, and then the out of balanced lover, where that's where the addiction comes in and stuff like that. And I just think that there might be some kings here, but there's a lot of tyrannous kings here, and which isn't so healthy for us all. Yeah. So yeah, it's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that, and this is a great opportunity to bring Andy Downs in, because I know you really got into Men Without Masks. Where did you actually meet Craig? How did this unfold for you, Andy?
So it was quite a serendipitous moment, the way that I met Craig. So I've always had a bit of an interest in self-development and self-improvement, and read various books around that subject. And one of my friends a couple of years ago was volunteering for another retreat that Craig was involved in, and she said, "Oh, Andy, this is right up your street. It's all about stepping into your purpose, figuring out your vision, and following that vision. Do you want to go on this retreat?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure. It sounds great." And that's where I met Craig. And on that retreat, I just kept looking at Craig, thinking, "Do you know what? I want to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
I want to create a space for people to be authentic, to set their vision that they want to achieve in their life, and to go out into the world and achieve it." And at the time, I was working for my father-in-law's business. Wasn't particularly enjoying it. I'd never really enjoyed any job that I'd done in the past. I'd worked in the corporate world for a number of years. Worked in the film industry, the music industry, all really fun jobs, but there was just something inside me that just kept saying, "This isn't right. This isn't your, this isn't the path that you should be on." And I kind of dabbled with the idea of getting into life coaching and helping people figure out their vision and their purpose, but never really sort of thought that it was a viable option for me. And then when I went on the retreat and I saw Craig doing what he does and doing it so well, I was just completely seduced. I was just like, this is, I need to get involved in the work that Craig's doing. I need to really think about what what career path I want to go on. And yeah, it was a really sort of life-changing moment. Really, was the moment that I met Craig.
Yeah, powerful. And how did the archetypes play out for you? Especially maybe being a gay man, and
yeah,
how was that? How did that unfold for your journey?
Do you know, it's interesting because I, as a gay man, I came to terms with my sexuality from quite a young age, really.
Yeah.
Sometimes people ask me what was my earliest sort of memory of sort of identifying as being a gay man, and I always say it was around about the time when I was about 10 or 11. We were on holiday as a family, and my sister wanted a photo with one of these guys that was dressed up as a Ghostbuster. We were in Florida, we were at the theme park, and there's this guy, this hunky, muscular guy dressed up as a Ghostbuster, and my sister wanted a photo with him, and I was just stood there thinking, I really want a photo of that guy, and I couldn't really process why, but I just knew that I wanted a photo of this really hunky, muscular guy. And that was my first sort of memory of starting to think, okay, something's going on here with my sexuality.
Yeah.
And I guess relating that back to Men Without Masks, that was the moment when I started to add layers to my mask. Because as I got older and older, I thought, I can't identify as a gay man in the world that I live in. So I kept putting various layers of my mask on. And that, that made me miserable, and that made me really unhappy. But relating that back to the archetypes, I grew up telling myself that as a gay man, I can't be a king. Being a king is about being a heterosexual man. It's about being a masculine man. It's about embodying, what it is to be a man. And I didn't think that being a gay man fitted in to that vision. Obviously, I was completely wrong, and I don't think that way nowadays. But yeah, it took me a long time to accept that I can be a king, and any man can be a king, regardless of your sexuality, regardless of your race, regardless of your age, your background. Every man has got that energy inside them. You just need to tap into it and pull that energy out. And it's taken me a long time to do that, and I'm still doing that. There's certain days where I don't feel like I've got that king energy inside me on that particular day. But relating it back to my sexuality, I don't feel that my sexuality can get in the way of me becoming the king that I know I can be inside.
Yeah, lovely. And I know you're now really stepping up into that role because you're about to adopt. About to adopt 2 children. And how's that process been for you? Like, the whole process of even considering adoption, and then now it actually coming to fruition. I know you're about to take on a couple of children, and you and your husband are stepping up into that role, because it's a big thing.
Yeah, it is. It's really scary, but it's also really exciting. I've got a really good relationship with my parents. Me and my dad had a tricky time when I came to sort of terms with my sexuality, and that sort of came out. But we've got through those bad times now, and I've got a really good relationship with my parents. But what I'm really excited about in terms of me becoming a parent is raising these 2 little human beings and teaching them that you can be, whoever you want to be in life, and you've got the power in you, and you've got the support around you, from me and from Dave, my husband, and to really create that safe space for these 2 children to be exactly who they are, who they want to be, and explore who they want to be, and to experiment with who they want to be. And that, for me, that is really exciting.
Yeah, really powerful stuff. And thank you for sharing that. And I for one, being a father and having a little 2-year-old, it's an amazing journey. I'm really excited for to see how things unfold for you in that aspect. What's your relationship with the LGBT community?
Yeah, so I've thought for a while now that I want to offer hope to other people in the LGBT community.
Yeah.
it's a very tight-knit community. We're very supportive of each other. But there are a lot of men and women out there that haven't quite found it in themselves to identify as part of the community.
Yeah.
You know, quite recently, Philip Schofield's is a good example.
Yeah.
Of someone that has taken a long time to find the courage to step into his authentic self, and he's a reminder of the path that I almost went down. You know, I suppressed my sexuality for many years, had relationships with women, and I thought that was the path that I was going to go down. I thought that I was just going to have to accept that I'm not really going to truly be myself for the rest of my life. I'm not really going to truly be happy. And then it kind of just happened by accident, really, that I met my now husband, Dave, and that took me on the complete opposite path.
Yeah.
Where now I am living my authentic self, I am truly, genuinely happy. And so I want to offer that kind of hope and support to other men and women in the LGBT community as well.
Yeah, lovely.
And just going back to what I was saying earlier, to tell these people and tell this community that you can be successful in whatever area you want to be. You know, for a long time, I thought that being gay meant that I wasn't good at sport. Whereas a couple of years ago, I got into a major passion in my life, which is tennis.
Yeah.
And I've kind of proved that inner critic in myself that, just because I'm gay doesn't mean that I can't be good at sport.
Absolutely.
And that's just one example of a limiting belief that I had that I've really worked on. And I kind of want to get that message out there that no matter what your sexuality, or the type of person that you want to identify as, you can be, who you want to be. And I know that it sounds really corny and it's a bit of a cliche that you can be who you want to be, but I think there are so many people out there that don't fully follow that.
There's a lot of self-doubters and a lot of self-criticism. People are just, self-sabotage, and for you to really step up into this role and own your sexuality and now demonstrate the qualities and hold the space for people in within the LGBT community, it's really powerful stuff. And anyone listening today, who is gay, just drawing upon Andy's story here and actually drawing upon all of our stories, really, to feel into that, you can be who you want to be, and who do you want to become, and to really celebrate who you are. We do put on these masks, don't we? We pacify, we self-sacrifice ourselves for maybe, I suppose, a feeling of wanting to be seen or wanting to be liked, and there's so much like that nature of being inauthentic. It just doesn't feel nice, does it? And to really then understand, it takes awareness really to take a look at your masks, and it takes courage to remove them. And that authentic space within us, it feels that the world's not going to love you for who you are. And really, I suppose we're all just starving for vulnerability, and vulnerability is it's especially in the West, it's seen as such a weakness, and it's probably our greatest strength to be who we are, and to celebrate, our light, but also to celebrate our shadow, them ugly parts of ourselves, them disowned parts of ourselves that, that we neatly project onto other people, I suppose, and and really to come to an understanding that actually I'm going to take ownership now. I'm going to take responsibility. This is my stuff. And Andy Kershaw was talking about taking responsibility before, and I think it's a massive step up, isn't it, when you just own your own stuff?
It's huge. At the end of the day, you can go on a million retreats and you can go to therapy and you can read a million books, but until you actually take full 100% responsibility for yourself, you're not going to make any changes. And we all know it deep inside, the things that we should and shouldn't be doing. And just going back to what you're saying about, what I really learned through therapy was living the life of the false self. Is wearing that mask and portraying to the world not the real me. And what happens for me when I did that is I attracted the wrong type of people to me, the wrong herd. And it wasn't until I actually took off that mask and just said, look, this is me. this is who I am, and really connected with my authentic true self, that the right sort of people started coming into my life. And when you step over that fear of, for me, it was like absent father and abandonment's that's my big wound. And once you step over that fear of judgment, if I'm really myself, people will run away. Well, for all those people that run away, you're going to attract the same amount of people towards you, or even more. They're going to go, do you know what? I like this guy. There's a good energy here, and I like that. And you want to be around people that are attracted to the real you.
Absolutely.
Because if you have people around you that are attracted to the fake you, you're going to be lonely. And if you're lonely and disconnected, you're gonna be what happened to me is I was an addict. And what I have is this, I believe, is a triangle of addiction. And at the top of that triangle, you have shame. Shame from the past. And for me, it was shame of not having a father. I felt a lot of shame around that. So, I dealt with that in psychotherapy. Disconnection and living a false self and not having true, authentic relationships with men and women. And I got that from Men Without Masks. Real, true connection. Real, just people see me for who I am and I see them. And I got that real connection. And then the other one was not living a life to my values, living a life to my mum's values or society's values, but living a life to my values. And that's freedom. That's my triangle of addiction. I worked on all three of those, and I was able to put down the party lifestyle, and I was able to put down the drink.
And inevitably put down the mask.
And put down the mask. And that just leads to an authentic life, and that's freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a level of liberation there, isn't there? And there's a lightness of being, and there's an okayness there, isn't it? It's like, you know what, I'm okay. Everything's okay. And we could even say that it is, what is enlightenment? And really, maybe from my perspective, it's just when everything is okay and you feel authentic, you feel honest. You can't wait to be in the world because there is no masks, there is no heaviness, there is no bitterness, and we're talking about self-mastery here, to really master oneself. It's probably, it is really the greatest journey, isn't it? One of the self, the human experience. And we don't really come to world with a map, do we? That we are the map, and we don't, but we look elsewhere, we look outside of ourselves, and obviously we can be influenced, and there's a lot of amazing opportunity and amazing people on the outside really demonstrating the qualities and showing us what it means to be a king in the world, and to be generative and to be wholesome. Yeah, it's truly beautiful when we can just go inside of ourselves, work with our stuff, understand the way we behave, and come out the other side, come out the other end, and it's just really beautiful for me to just express naturally here the power of this work and the power of community and the power of coming together and relating to one another. I think we are just starving for authentic connections and relationship. And I know, I know you lost your father, Dave, didn't you? In your early 20s. I know you had a beautiful childhood. There was a lot of happy moments, but you lost him probably at a time in your life when maybe you might have needed him the most.
It was something that I didn't realise till I was probably 45. I kind of manned up, when I lost my dad. I thought, that's fine, I don't need him anymore. I'm 20 years old, I'm a man, I don't need that guidance. And I very much did that thing where I just lived with my peers. There was no elders at all, I just lived with my peers. And there wasn't a lot of direction between 20 and 35, there wasn't a lot of direction. I always had my climbing to fall back onto, but I took a lot of drugs, I drank a lot, I partied a lot. It wasn't a positive step forward, and I always had a craving for an elder. My dad had put in place when I was a teenager, there was elders, there was his friends who came into our house who I really idolised, I really looked up to, and who responded to that, you know, who taught me a way of living. There was one guy, actually, he died last year, he was 93, and he lived an incredible life. He was on the 1948 Olympic cycling team.
Wow.
And he was 50 when I was born, you know.
Wow.
And I remember every Saturday morning he was in our house, and he introduced, my dad was a professional racing cyclist when he was younger, and then he took up mountain running. And this guy, Eric, introduced him into mountain running. And he lived the life. He had 2 kids and a wife, but he lived in this little house up on the moorland, just outside Buxton where I was born. And he grew all his own fruit and veg, and he retired when he was 50. And I didn't really realise till later on in life how much a part he played in my psyche, and how much I was very much drawn to that, and where it had come from. So yeah, I'd always seeked elders, and not necessarily found them. And then, you know, I went on the retreat in November, the Men Without Mask retreat in November, and I didn't necessarily find elders, but I found a new relationship with men that wasn't my peers, that was brought out in a rawness in that men's circle, in an emotional rawness which I could really identify with. And I think that I walked away from there with knowing 10 men better than I know people that I've known for 30 years.
Wow.
Know?
And it's incredibly potent work, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
You know, and we've now, you know, you're now a new member of the team, and I feel as if actually, and I can speak for everybody else in the room here, you offer an incredible dynamic with your connection to nature, really. You know, I know you even when I look at you look like a very strong, like almost a weathered man. You know, you spent obviously a lot of time outside. I know you've climbed all around the world.
I'm at home with nature.
Yeah, that
is my home. And I come on the train to Liverpool and I step off the train. It's like, fuck.
I'd love you to speak a lot more about that too, Dave, because we're talking about modalities here and all the things available to us as men to grow and to incorporate a shadow, which is beautiful. And on our fucking doorstep, we've got this incredible Mother Nature that is also a tool for us to immerse ourselves in, to remember who we are, and, you know, remember the gift of life.
Yeah. Nature for me is everything. I'm at home in nature. I sit and close my eyes and absorb nature, and I feel completely whole. It's essential for everyone. It's essential medicine for everyone. It's you can forget pharmaceuticals, and to a degree you can forget psychotherapy, and if you can sit out there on a warm sunny day or in the rain and absorb the atmosphere and listen to the wind and feel the coldness. Yeah. 2 years ago I really got interested in this guy Wim Hof, they call the Iceman, who developed a breathing technique along with cold water immersion techniques for him, it was also to deal with depression. His wife had committed suicide, and it became a lifelong journey for him. And I started going wild swimming on a regular basis.
Wow.
Off my own back, initially. And also to cope with a little bit of depression that was happening at the time. And what came from that has been a journey in itself for me. Even the cold water itself is a journey. There's physical effects, you know, there's physical hormonal effects on your body, but there's
like a spiritual.
There's a spiritual element to it. When you get into cold water, everything else is gone. It's so focusing.
Yeah.
Where I swim regularly. It's cold, dark water. The water's filled with peat from the moors.
Wow.
It's brown. It's intimidating. It's not like swimming around a Greek island, you know. It takes me 20 minutes to walk there, and from the minute I get out of the car, there's anticipation, but there's also a feeling of, there's an anxiety, you know, even though I've done it every day for 2 years.
Wow.
And you get into that water and everything's gone.
Wow.
Everything's gone. And you come out of that water and you're reborn. And for me, that's a place of darkness, and I come out and I'm totally regenerated.
It's an initiation in itself, isn't it? You know, there's obviously a daily ritual here.
It's a daily initiation, and I also have a cold shower in the garden. If I don't get for a walk, I have a cold shower, and just that little barrier, just that, oh God, have I got to do the cold shower again? Yeah. But the minute you come out of it,
yeah, the liberation,
I've done that. Yeah. Everything else is easy, and everything else drops away. Yep. Addictions drop away. Yeah. Little addictions
builds like a very strong resilience as well, doesn't it?
It's the mental focus.
Yeah.
It's the overcoming something on a regular basis. Yeah. Your mind is, it might be an ethereal thing, but it works like a muscle. Yeah. The more work you do on it, the stronger it becomes.
And we're stronger than we think, really, aren't we?
Oh, we're incredibly strong.
Yeah.
We all have an inner strength that we don't even tap into.
I think we have an encoded, level of resilience. We're born with resilience, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? We've got the stuff to get the job done. We've got these tools for constancy and this personal will to carry on. It's really powerful, isn't it?
Well, as men, it's essential.
Yeah.
And we've become softened. We've become domesticated. We've become, it's partly industrial revolution based. It's partly technology based. Make our lives more comfortable. As human beings, we are lazy. We like to do things the easy way.
Yeah.
But as men, that's not necessarily the right way. Yeah. We also need to be tested.
Absolutely.
We need to be mentally tested. We need to be physically tested. And we need to be given the tools for resilience and to get stronger.
Yeah, definitely. And just what popped into my mind there was actually a Facebook ad or a post a couple of weeks ago. I actually haven't read it yet, but it was comfort's killing us.
Yes, exactly.
It's comfort, it's killing us, and we're talking, we're coming back to this initiation process, and as I said, there's a natural pull to initiate, isn't there, for men? It's encoded in our experience, and we I suppose we can have massive initiative experiences, especially for many tribesmen, and other communities on the planet. And what we haven't really got in the West is this rites of passage.
The symbolism of tribal ritual. In Africa, there's the tribes that scar themselves, they carry scars. Now, a scar is an initiation. It's a cut, it's a wound. But the scar is the healing of the wound.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that you do heal.
Yeah.
And it's something that's stronger than it was in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's an initiation.
Yeah.
It should be painful.
Yeah.
Perhaps, the ultimate issue is that we're raised in a society to pursue a life of pleasure without pain.
Mm.
And, a mentor of mine, Dr. DeMartini, believes through his work that the key to freedom, if you like, Martin, the key to enlightenment is accepting fully that life is an equal amount of pleasure and pain. Mm. And suffering comes from a one-sided view of reality.
Mm.
So something I said yesterday in the podcast, which I'll say it again, self-acceptance is realizing that life is a fucking challenge, and having an authentic purpose is a question of realizing that and making sure that you choose a challenge that's worthy.
Yeah.
You know, choose a challenge. We grow as humans by solving problems and moving through challenges, and so it's important to choose a challenge that's worthy. And it's a fucking challenge for me to turn up every retreat and do the Men Without Masks. And for us, you know, the fear comes, oh, this again? But then once we go through that initiation, as Dave said, life is just a gift.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Craig. And you know, there's a teacher I'm following at the moment, and his name's Sam Harris, and he's got an incredible meditation background, and I really like some of the stuff, and he's got his own podcasts, Waking Up, that I'm really diving into at the moment. I'm fully enjoying, and you know what you're talking about there, Craig, is problem solving. You know, Sam Harris sort of mentions about life, and it's almost like this video. It's like a video game, you know what I mean? And out there, it's a jungle out there, you know what I mean? And having the capacity to solve these problems,
having the tools,
absolutely.
Martin. And it's back to fatherhood. It's back to somebody showing you the tools, somebody giving you the tool bag and say, this is how they work.
This is how it's done.
And that's not necessarily intuitive. You know?
Yeah. We have to be shown, don't we? We have to be led. You know, to be led from the front, it's powerful stuff.
I think as well what Dave, what you're saying your father did, you know, when you look back on that, that was amazing that he identified that it wasn't just his view on the world, but he was bringing in other elders into you that you said you idolized. And that's a very important point here, is that one, you know, like a father figure or, you know, not one person's view is correct. You need to have a view of so many different wise elders to make your own judgment.
100 fathers, you know, you need 100 fathers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking about the importance of mentors and fathers and elders, and for sure, you know, part of our journey is to make people realize that. At the same time, you know, I look at someone like Andy Kershaw, for example, and without everything that happened in his life, he wouldn't be who he is today. I used to coach him in London Wasps, and his transformation is incredible for any men out there. And the reality is, he would not be where he is today without every single experience. So, of course, we want to make men more aware so they become better fathers and teach others to become better fathers. At the same time, the part of our work is realizing that nothing was ever wrong.
Nothing was ever wrong.
And some of the most influential figures in the course of human history, most of them probably, had a very, very disruptive upbringing.
Yeah, and I think this, you know, sort of leads us maybe into talking about how we can use, you know, all of our moments in our lives, you know, that nothing was ever wrong, and actually every moment's a teacher, you know, whatever, and it's how we look at it. And a lot of people use maybe moments of anguish and suffering, but as an incredible springboard, you know, to take control, to empower themselves, you know, and to really do something about life. Because, you know, we've all heard of that cliche, you only get one shot at it, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, a lot of people, they play the victim, don't they? You know, they go into that victimhood, and it really is for me, a low level of vibration which doesn't really serve.
Well, they also suppress. You know, if something's painful, we're taught to suppress it. We're not taught to feel it.
Yeah.
And anything that gets suppressed comes back one day and bites you in the arse.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Hugely.
And what the retreat does, it teaches you how to feel.
Yeah.
It forces you how to feel. You're asked to feel. How do you feel? And the more you're asked, how do you feel? The more you ask yourself, well, how do I feel?
Yeah.
What is feeling? Where do I feel?
Yeah.
And the more you feel, the more answers you get.
Yeah.
It's an important point that Dave just mentioned, and a message to men that are listening to this, because we know that a lot of men are on the edge of committing to coming on the retreat, but often they don't because it's a scary place. And just something to talk about is, it is very much about feeling. You know, I'm sure every man has heard from other people, whether they're colleagues or partners, that you're in your head. And a big part of the journey is getting into our bodies. You know, sometimes the men I talk to, it's like, what do you mean getting in your body? Well, you have to come on a retreat like this to realise that. Often on the last day of the retreat, the feedback is, do you know what? Everything you've said, I've understood on a mental level, but until now, I've never felt it. My body knows what you mean now. And it's our body which is the vehicle for moving in this life. And when our body knows and feels into that, it changes life.
And I know, after years of exploration with the likes of yoga and breathwork and pranayama, and, it's really just about, Craig, embodiment, isn't it?
It is embodiment, yeah. I mean, there's a whole new branch of science coming out now. And I mean, a book arrived the other day in my house. Your body is your subconscious mind. It was the title of the book. We used to think that everything was stuck up here, and we've got this cognitive mind and this subconscious mind and this superconscious mind and conscious mind, and everything's mental, and it's not. The body is our storehouse of emotions and memories, and the body speaks its own language, and we have energy centers, and we have a brain in the heart, we have a brain in the gut, not just in our heads. And once we can embody, and that means get into the body and deepen our connection to the body through breath work and lots of many other exercises, we can actually make more informed decisions, because we have 3 brains instead of 1, and we have all the intelligence of the body that we wake up to once again. And if you look at a baby that comes into the world, and you look at the body, and they're free, and they breathe in a certain rhythmic way, and through the belly and up, and their head rocks, and everything's in union and flow, and then throughout the course of life and all the micro traumas we experience, we shut down various parts of the body, and it's a defensive mechanism. And if we can reopen the body and reopen our love for the body, it really, really, really changes lives. And it's amazing to see all the breathwork now coming on the scene from different walks of life: Wim Hof, Buddhism, pranayama, holotropic breathing, rebirthing, breathing experts from the military and SAS. It's amazing what's happening now. And along with the cognitive thinking and understanding therapies, which are beautiful as well, if we can combine it with embodiment practices, it's a real powerful cocktail. And one cocktail that we're going to use in the King Retreat, this combination of getting clear at the level of the mind on where we're going and what's important to us and how we're getting there, goals, and a very masculine way of looking at purpose, and combining that with a shitload of movement and breath work and moving through physical barriers to actually also feel what it means to be on purpose.
Yeah, wow, thank you for sharing that. And I'm really getting a really exciting feeling that there's a whole different approach to healing nowadays, isn't it? And it's really coming online, and it only takes, the odd few to really start to hold the space, and to start to demonstrate the qualities of holistic healing, and using all these modalities that you're mentioning here, Craig. And I think nowadays it's probably actually become a little bit more cool to do a bit of yoga, to dive into mindfulness. A few years ago it was such a label of yoga. It was maybe for old people, or but I only have to look at the hot yoga centres arriving in Liverpool, and they have been now for 8-9 years. They're all full, and they're all full of men. We have a lot of men who come to the studio, and and they're here to explore themselves.
They're here because it works, Martin. Our millions of years of evolution is stored in our bodies, not in our brains. Our brains are just our minds are just pretty much regurgitated thoughts and regurgitated experiences. The real connection, the real evolution is on our cellular genetic level, and if you want to experience that, then you've got to look at it.
All the shamanic tribes, their first brain is the instinct, it's the stomach. That's what they listen to first, and they look at us in the West and they think we're crazy, because we're so cerebral nowadays, lost in thought a lot. And I mean, I think a quote from Dr. Joe Dispenza, 70% of life is actually spent in an assumption. We're just guessing. We're just in the head so much in stories that actually don't really matter a lot of the time. And
on a single perspective that we've made up ourselves.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I think we take in any situation, we take in 10% of the information.
And that is madness, isn't it?
Yeah, and then make an assumption on it.
The funny thing is that just sitting here, what's coming up for me is it's actually the shadow of reading a book. Because you're in your head, you're reading, you're sucking in this information, it's all going in your head. And if you just sit reading books, you know, it's the shadow, because you're not going to be in your body. So it's so important what you're saying, to get out and get into your body. Like recently, my partner Alice and I, you know, she's obviously taking a bit of time out to have some children at the moment, and she's you know, trained to be a psychotherapist. You know, I'm obviously quite into human behaviour, so you can imagine the intensity of our conversations on the couch. You know, if we're not watching Netflix, it's quite intense. And you know, we've recently had to deal with some issues that the shadow of that is that we're not in our bodies, and we're too in our heads. And it's so important to get into that breath work and get into that yoga, and you know, just get out into nature
and just simple practices. I mean, nobody wants to be cold anymore. We get up, we put our clothes on, we put our socks on, we walk with shoes on. We're not designed to walk with shoes on. You know, we're designed to be barefoot. We're designed to have our skin exposed to the cold and the elements. Just by simple practices of sitting without a shirt on and feeling the wind blow, you're reconnecting, you're learning to feel again. And it might not sound much, but what is actually happening, you're changing on a cellular level, you're re-educating your body to something that's been lost.
You're going back to a very primordial state within your experience, I believe.
And it's essential, because we are primordial still, you know.
It's coming back to nature again, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah.
And Martin mentioned that shamanic tribes focusing on the instinct and the gut brain. It's easier to do that when you're connected to nature. It's harder to do that when you're stuck in your head. And Andy's talking about reading and being in your head. And even when we're reading, it's something that I do with my clients, actually. If we do something that's in the head, we'll follow it with a period of breath work. It's almost as if we're learning here and we're trying to seep the learnings into the body. So it's so important, embodiment.
Wow, you know, I think over the last, so far this conversation's been really riveting for me, and you know, especially over the last 25, 30 minutes, we really stepped into a flow there, and you know, for anyone listening today, I hope you're really enjoying the conversation so far. And you know, I suppose we're going to be heading towards the later stages of the conversation, and we've really tapped on a lot of things here: the journey of man, absent fathers, the statistics of suicide, you know, and the importance of this work, really, you know, the importance of getting into the body, of being around men, seeking elders, you know, and I can really, you know, feel into my own journey here, and not forgetting about, you know, the meditative experience, you know, being in stillness. You know, stillness is a great teacher for us all, and to really embody a very simple active practice of meditation, you know, where you can sit and you can watch the nature of your own breath, and you can observe the nature of your own body, and use, you know, the objective of your own experience to inevitably train your own experience. And that's why I love, I suppose, the meditative journey so much, is that you're just closing down from the external world for a moment, and just being with the self. You said one thing there, Dave, which is essential, and you're very much being with the essential part of who you are, and this primordial essence of awareness, you know, just the very source of your being. You know, we're called human beings, and we don't know how to be. You know, we've forgotten what it means to be, and to be authentic, and to be original. And you know, we're the only species that tells lies, and it's you know.
In that meditative state, Martin, it's down to feeling. Once you try to empty of thoughts, when the thoughts come, you feel them, you see them. They're like a stone dropping on water. You know, you see the energy in thoughts. You see how fleeting they are. You feel them if they're worth feeling, otherwise they're gone, you know.
Lovely.
And that's the beauty of meditation.
Yeah. And again, for anyone listening today who really wants to start maybe diving into this work, there's an invitation to go to an edge. We remain in these areas of comfort, but there's no growth in them areas, and we do have to exercise an edge. We do have to go to them uncomfortable parts of ourselves, and that's where the growth actually is. When we step outside, and we just move into them places of uncomfortableness, but then there's a leveling up, and I, for one, I'm always pushing my own edge, and and I'm exploring cold water therapy myself, and recent, with the shower, and recently starting to actually get in a bath now of cold water, and it's a whole different experience. And but I actually really, over the last couple of years, I can't remember the last time I was sick, Dave. I can't remember the last time I wasn't well. I've been feel very well. I've had an Ultimate Morning program, and Craig and I spoke about it on the previous podcast, and just this element of having a sacred morning routine, which pushes the boundaries.
You're set in a healthy mindset, Martin, and there's also some evidence that says the cold water therapy stimulates white blood cell production. Yeah, and which fights disease.
Absolutely, and so just to sit here and thrash all this out, and for anyone looking to dive into this stuff, then Men Without Masks is available. We're running 4 retreats a year in the Peak District in a lovely retreat centre in Whaley Hall, and we've got a 1-day event in Liverpool, which we're going to be running every year. That's going to be in
August the 9th.
And obviously, if you're in Liverpool, you're listening to this conversation, there's many yoga studios out there. Planet Yoga's available. We're open 7 days a week. We're running over 25 classes a week. So there's a lot of embodiment work here. There's also a lot of workshops, events. There's a lot of circles. I, for one, am teaching meditation, and I'm weaving in a lot of human behavior and the things we've spoke about today, and we sit in circles. So it's a lot of group therapy stuff as well, and a lot of authentic connections, and I'm really enjoying this journey here in Liverpool, and I'm proud of what Planet Yoga's become, and how we hold space for people to empower themselves and for them to heal themselves and inevitably to awaken to that essential part of our nature. There's a lot out there, and there's just invitation to meet new people as well. There's beauty in exploring new relationships with new people. I, for one, am really fortunate enough to have met a hell of a lot of beautiful people over the last few years. And some of these people I would consider my closest friends nowadays, and it really lights me up to say that. So as we start to lean towards the end of the podcast, we'll just go round the room, and we'll have maybe a little check out. Anything else you'd like to share about what we spoke about today, or any advice for anyone tuning in and listening to this conversation?
I think from just sitting here, we've just been in flow, and it's just so natural and so authentic. And if anyone listening out there that's feeling into themselves, or maybe not in their head, and one thing that I always resonates with me is the pain of staying the same must be greater than the fear of change. And change is beautiful, change is growth, change is uncomfortable, and own it. And take 100% responsibility of yourself.
Wise words from Andy Kershaw, and change is actually inevitable as well, and we have to move into the inevitability of change. Life is momentary, and it's always constantly in a flux of change, and lovely words there. So Andy Kershaw, it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's I'm looking forward to getting you back in Liverpool and having some fun. Andy Downs.
I think for me, what's striking about this conversation, and what's a nice reminder is that having done this work myself and been on the retreat and now work on the retreat, these types of conversations that we've had today, we're having outside of this podcast as well.
Yeah.
And that's what this work has opened my mind to, is that there are other like-minded men out there that have been through very similar situations to me. Some men that have been through very different situations to me, but we can still relate to each other.
Yeah.
And that's what's been amazing for me, is just making those connections, making new friends. Like you said, Martin, that, you know, these friends that I would consider to be my family. And, you know, we, on the retreat and outside the retreat, we call each other brothers, and we don't say that term lightly. Like, we mean it. We do become brothers. And these types of conversations that we've had today are just really, really healthy. Sometimes they can get intense, you know, these conversations, and you can go to quite dark places, but that's essential for us to find the light in our stories as well.
Yeah, and you know, I'd really like to just add there is, you know, we sometimes we all have a different sense of opinions as well, but we have the formalities and we have the tools to listen to one another, and to, you know, to be authentic, and to communicate non-violently, you know, which is a big one. And we've learned how to actually talk to each other, to relate to each other, and to keep things clean. You know, because we've all got a different dynamic within our relationships and within our personality, and we don't always see eye to eye. But when we do come together and we use the tools that we've learned and we continue to embody, then it really gives us all an opportunity to be heard, to be seen, and to come to to come to a natural conclusion with things. And it's really not just for the benefit of our own individual evolution, but it's for the benefits of the collective as well, isn't it? So thank you for being here, Andy. I'm really excited for, you know, how things are going to be unfolding for you over the you know, the coming months, and, you know, good luck with the adoption process, and yeah, keep hitting them tennis balls, mate. You know, I know we've been threatening to get on the tennis court, so I'd love to you know, to exercise that sometime this year.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Dave?
I think we have a responsibility to create a generation of elders that's missing. And if you want the tools, come to Men Without Masks and learn about yourself, but also learn how to lead, how to step into your own masculine role, and understand where and how that can play out in today's society and make a better place for everybody.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you for sharing that, and welcome to the team, Dave. You know, I for one, and again, speaking on behalf of everyone, we feel really strongly about your presence and your essence, and you've got a great story to tell, and we're looking forward to really some lovely adventures moving into the future.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
Thanks,
good man.
Martin.
Thank you. Craig, finishing off.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about the shadow, and without going into too much detail, you know, the shadow is just the parts of our psyche or the parts of our personality that we suppressed or we hid away growing up because we wanted to be loved. We wanted to feel love, and that was a survival mechanism. Just for the men out there to realise that it's not all dark. You know, when we talk about the dark shadow, we might be talking about suppressed anger, suppressed sadness, suppressed sexuality, this kind of thing. Maybe we suppressed our feminine side, or maybe some guys suppress the masculine side. But ultimately, we also suppress superpowers, talents, gifts, light, potential. So part of coming on a retreat like this with us is not just about unpacking the dark stuff. To be honest, for many men, it's actually about the opposite. It's about owning our greatness again and expressing ourselves again, and actually standing in front of a group of men and telling the other group of men how fucking good you are, and having feedback from the other men, what qualities they see in you. So it's about uncovering our gold as well. It's not just about recognizing our shame. I feel that's a really important point.
Lovely, you know, really powerful point as well to finish off on. And you know, we're all a mixture of light and shadow, aren't we? And really to own both parts of ourselves, you know, our greatness and also our shadow. It's equally empowering. And I suppose I'd like to maybe just finish off this conversation with we spoke about a lot of men's stuff here today, and, you know, it's been quite a masculine conversation. But the conversation isn't just for any man tuning in today. It's for women also. You know, and you may have a brother or father, or a husband, a boyfriend who may be struggling, you know, with some of this stuff we've been speaking about today. And I hope you've been inspired. You know, I sit here today as a man, as a mature, generative, wholesome being, trying my best in the world, and you know, really trying my best to be to be really respectful, you know, of my own energy and the energy of women. And it's an ongoing process. So I certainly want to just tune into all the women listening today. And as I said, I hope you've really enjoyed the conversation, and also for the men. And really, we're in this together. You know, men have hurt women and women have hurt men. But when we just come together, and because a lot of these teachings that we're speaking about today, they're actually universal. They're very universal. And when we come together as a species, you know, and we work on our own stuff, and we fill our own cups, and we empower ourselves to be better. There's a naturalness, there's a connection where community and a sense of well-being within the realm of the collective can really have a positive effect on how we move forward in generations to come. So again, I'd really like to just echo the sentiments of gratitude here, and you know, I feel really excited to release this particular conversation. We've spoken a lot about a lot of things, and I just feel a deep sense of stillness and humility after today's conversation. So yeah, we're just checking out now, and I hope anyone listening today has a great day. Bye for now. Creating Space is sponsored by the Scouse Guru app, an all-purpose meditation app that feeds into all your needs, developing peace of mind, increasing mental focus, lowering stress levels while discovering inner stillness, awakening your potential and educating you on all matters related to human behaviour and personal development. Download the app for free on the App Store or get it on Google Play today.